Hello everyone, my name is Lowko, and welcome back to a Best-of-5 series of professional StarCraft 2. Now what I've got for you today is a Terran versus Protoss from a recent tournament. I'll talk about that in just a little bit, because spawning here in the top right hand corner of 2000 atmospheres, that's game number 1 and it is Best-of-5. Playing with the blue Terran SCVs from South Korea, we have Cure. His opponent in the opposite corner, playing with the red Protoss probes, someone who I believe I've never actually covered before on this YouTube channel, which is a shame because he's really good at this game. He goes by the name of HellraiseR, and I'll talk about him in just a second as well. So this particular game is from the Siege Perilous, and I actually joined Creighton yesterday on the final day of this tournament to cover these games together with him. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I mean, I've obviously already seen those games because of it, right? This particular series is a banger. I really enjoyed watching it, and I think if you're a Protoss player in particular, you'll probably enjoy watching this one as well. So going into this series, I mean, it's a best-of-5, you know, between someone who you may not be as familiar with and then Cure, right? Cure is a ridiculously good Protoss player, one of the Terran player, obviously. One of the very best players in StarCraft 2, period. And then we have HellraiseR. Now, real quick, in case you're unfamiliar, and there we go, by the way, the probe is already moving out. He's from the Ukraine, he's 22 years old, and as of me making this video on Aligilek, he's considered to be the number 37 in the world, and the rank 1 from Ukraine, recently overtaking Bly on that website. Now, in order to make it to the semifinals, and this is the semifinals of the Siege Perilous, of that tournament, he had to take down Goblin 2-0, MaxPax 2-0, Frisk 2-0, 3-0 against Skillis, and then he once again in the quarters faced off against MaxPax, who he also 3-0'd. It's a ridiculous run for HellraiseR. So, in case you were unfamiliar with him, I hope at the very least that this series is going to teach you a little bit more about his playstyle. I don't know if he plays like this all of the time, but let's just say that he likes to get a little bit aggressive, okay? Maybe he doesn't though, because obviously he's going up against Cure. And, you know, Cure is very good. One thing, actually, that Creighton mentioned, and I think that this is the sickest burn ever, is that I don't organize tournaments myself very regularly, right? It's something I do every once in a while, like a show match or something, but I don't really do tournament organization in general. Creighton does. He mentioned that every once in a while, whenever the top-level Koreans go up against someone from Europe that they may not be as familiar with, right? Apparently, they sometimes ask in the in-game lobby, what race are you? Which I thought was like the sickest burn ever. A proper Giga Chat move, right? In order to, you know, really beat someone down before you've even faced them. You ask what race it is they play. Anyways, let us talk about what's actually going on. We have HellraiseR right now building that Void Ray. And he's gonna start putting up a couple of shield batteries right here in the natural expansion of Cure. Now, Cure did send out an SCV, so he knows that something is not quite right. He hasn't figured out exactly what's going on, but I think that this is pretty much all he really needs to know. There we go. He's gonna get down towards the low ground right now, and he will spot that something is not going well inside of his natural expansion. He's already started up the Cyclone, though. He's gonna be able to go for that starport here as well to start producing those Vikings. And basically what HellraiseR is gonna try and do is he's gonna try and basically use this shield battery over here to keep all of those units alive while trying to beam down whatever he can with his Stargate units, and then also apparently a Stalker or two, right? He can always add on more Stalkers here if he wants to, going forward as well. But the real strength here is going to be those Void Rays, right? So already we have a Fleet Beacon right now as a follow-up as well. Fleet Beacon, so important to try and you know, get in these kind of circumstances. Now he's going to be able to start zapping down right there on that Cyclone. That's the very first Cyclone. And that one gets picked off pretty much for free. That is not the situation you want to be in. Anyways, in case you're unfamiliar with this particular Protoss build, usually what the Protoss players follow this up with is Tempest. So it turns out if you have 2 Tempest, you can start one-shotting those Marines. You can start one-shotting those SCVs as well. However, when you have 3 of them, you can start one-shotting Vikings. You can start one-shotting Cyclones. You can start one-shotting a whole lot of other Terran units. And it's kind of nuts. So here we go. Very first one is going to be coming up right from the get-go. 4.5 minutes into the game, we already have a tier 3 unit coming up right now for HellraiseR. He decides to continue building more and more shield batteries as well. Cure did put down a siege tank, which is something, yeah, I've seen every once in a while. I guess it's mostly here to try and keep those Stalkers at bay. I wonder if it's a good idea to try and scoot it forward just to start dealing a little bit of damage as well to those shield batteries. Shield batteries, of course, very powerful. especially when you can get multiples of them and you get a lot of energy on them. So you can see more and more coming up, and this is just going to make it even more painful right now for Cure to be able to break out of his base. Here's the first Tempest coming up. Second Tempest already on that production tab as well. You can see so far, nice dance back and forth here by HellraiseR. He hasn't lost really pretty much anything. I think he was forced to cancel maybe one structure there or something. I'm not entirely sure what the 25 mineral loss was for. But so far, this has been a close to flawless game against one of the very best Terran players in the world. Here's also that upgrade coming up in the Fleet Beacon. Blizzard added this one, I think, back in August, if I recall correctly. This is an upgrade that basically allows these Tempests to deal a lot more damage to structures. So the structures are, gonna soon start taking a lot of damage. You'll see it when this little, I guess it's like a ball of lightning or something. I don't know. It's like a ball of energy. When it turns red against structures, you know that it's dealing way more damage than it did previously. I think it's like a doubling in the damage output. This was originally intended, actually, to help Protoss players out against Spore Crawler forests. But most of the time right now, we see it used in these kind of circumstances instead. Alrighty, so SCVs are getting picked off right now, right? So at this point, we're at the magical number of 2 Tempests. And this already gets much, much nicer right here for HellraiseR. What Cure is trying to do right now is just trying to build a lot of stuff, right? So he's going to be getting himself the lock-on improvement as well for the Cyclones. He already lost one of those Cyclones, though, which makes the defense here quite a bit harder. But now that he can actually hold the front door relatively well with these Marines and then also these SCVs repairing the bunker as well as the Cyclones, apparently the Vikings decide to get a little bit more adventurous. So the Vikings are going to go across the map. Now, Vikings deal bonus damage against mechanical. And it turns out pretty much everything from the Protoss players at this point in the game are going to be mechanical, or is going to be mechanical. He's going to be able to go after those probes, and those probes will be two-shotted. This is actually kind of nuts. We have Viking harass going on inside of the main base of the Protoss player. I love this move from Cure. Look how quickly these landed Vikings go through the probes. Isn't that nuts? This is not something you normally see. Anyways, at the same time, apparently there was a bit of a move forward. There are 3 Tempests available at this point, and I've got a feeling that this barracks may very well end up falling. That being said, obviously, Cure just now put a timer on off his opponent's build, right? As long as he can keep these units at bay, he should be okay. There's only 7 workers remaining, and those 7 workers have moved across the map towards the starport, or the Stargate rather, and apparently the Nexus will be built over there to continue mining for a little while longer. Alright, that being said, those flying Protoss units are getting dangerously close right now towards the orbital command. They're going to be able to start hitting the mineral line here very, very soon. I think actually, most of that production right now has already been picked off. There was never a whole lot of economy here for Cure to begin with, and I think losing that very first Cyclone so easily is really gonna hurt him quite a bit, because right now you can see he doesn't have that much to continue pushing this army back. Anyways, here we go. There's gonna be additional healing from those shield batteries. One of the Tempests is starting to take a lot of damage. We see most of the units running dangerously low in the hit points, but the problem is that Cure doesn't have that much to keep these units at bay, right? He's gonna be able, HellraiseR that is, to continuously go back. Now, the Vikings have decided to return. If we look at the third base, though, of the Terran player, there's a Nexus over there mining a lot of resources, and HellraiseR is gonna continue the production at least for a little while longer. Tempest, trying to go around. All right. This is obviously one of the new maps that get added. Now, here we go. He's going to be able to engage. There we go. That's one of the Tempests going down. Second Tempest taking a lot of damage. Nice moves right here from Cure. Is the third Tempest going to go down as well? It's running dangerously low. While this was happening, though, we did see the Vikings also getting picked off there by a couple of those Photon Cannons and also the Void Rays, obviously. Very nice with that prismatic alignment. These Stargate units are obviously very expensive. I actually really love the addition right now of an Oracle. Oracles have a skill called Revelation. Tempest can shoot extremely far away, especially when air-to-air. So look at that. They can shoot away much further than they can see. And at this point, Cure looks at this and he realizes that he cannot stay in this game. So game number 1 goes in favor of HellraiseR. All right. Now, the reason why I wanted to share this particular series with you is this game right here on Romanticide. So, the Void Ray into Tempest shenanigans, it's quite popular in the Terran versus Protoss matchup right now. This particular game right here on Romanticide is very different than pretty much any other Protoss game that I've ever seen, okay? So, I mean, Cure is Cure, right? if you've been watching my YouTube channel for a little while, you've probably seen 100 games of his by now, right? And you kind of know the way that he plays. He plays what I would consider to be very standard. He doesn't really take a whole lot of gambles, doesn't really take a whole lot of risks, but if you're better at playing, you know, standard than your opponent, most of the time you can obtain the victory. HellraiseR, though, in this particular game, does something wild, something that I haven't really seen before. So I hope you've got yourself a drink. I hope you're sitting down, because there's some fun StarCraft coming your way. Now, we find ourselves on Romanticide, right? Which is game number 2 in this Best-of-5 series. And Romanticide features a really big ramp over here that leads towards both the natural and then the third base. And over time, what we found is that if Terran players, Protoss players, and Zerg players are sitting on top of this area of the map, right? So they're sitting here with the natural and over here with the third base. Pushing into this location is extremely difficult until these mineral patches are mined out, which is usually up to the defensive player to do, right? If you're the defensive player, yes, certainly that's an option that you have. However, most of the time you're better off just keeping this mineral wall up because obviously it keeps you safe quite nicely. I mean, say for example, you decide to push up this ramp over here. All you need to do as a Protoss player or a Terran player or a Zerg player is keep track and control of this area of the map. And since the Terran units in this case, right, if they want to push up this ramp, they're going to be fighting in a convex versus a Protoss player that can fight in a concave up there, right? If at that point the attacker decides to go all the way around to try and come in from this side, obviously this is a very short walk for the defensive player. And usually what I'm getting at right now is that this is a map where if you want to play turtily, if you want to play defensively, you can get 3 bases up uncontested most of the time without your opponent being able to do much about it. What we do see a lot from Zerg players is actually this base being taken as the third instead, just to keep this base, you know, for a little while longer. It helps a lot with the creep threat and stuff. You can take this one as your fourth as well. But most of the time, Terran and Protoss players like to take this one, this triangle base, instead, right? And this is important because it's going to allow the strategy that HellraiseR will be going for. Alrighty, so Stargate is coming up right here once again from our Protoss. You can see that he built a Stalker over here as well. Decides to forgo the Warp Gate upgrade for the time being, just so he can grab himself that Stargate ever so slightly quicker. And he decides to start bumping out those Phoenixes. Now, Phoenixes are cool because in this particular matchup, they're really good. So in Protoss vs Terran, I found that Phoenixes are really good at keeping the opponent occupied. So the problem is, if you decide to move out, right, against someone who's got like 5-6 Phoenixes out on the map, you will lose a mineral line worth, right? So these Phoenixes can go and attack, lift up half a dozen SCVs in like a, 5 seconds time. They can kill all of those SCVs and then still get home in time for dinner as well to be able to defend against whatever push the opponent has got coming. So I really like Phoenix openers also because of the fact that they're good against like medevac drops. So one of the things we see quite a bit is medevac drops with Widow Mines, for example, heading on over towards the mineral line of the Protoss player. And obviously these Phoenixes, since they can move and shoot at the same time, they're really good at picking up those units as well. Now, usually what I found is that these Phoenix-based openers kind of enable that longer type of game. The kind of game that I was trying to bring up earlier. I mean, not only the map layout helps a lot with that, but you can also kind of force the game to go the distance with these Phoenixes because your opponent is going to be forced in a more defensive position. Plus, obviously, if you decide to go for a move out... By the way, is anyone getting a little bit nauseous yet? Yeah? Alright, I'll move away. If the Terran player decides to move out here, obviously those Phoenixes can lift up the big hitters, like for example the siege tanks. And this makes it, yeah, just a strong build overall. I'm a big fan of the Phoenix openers. We don't see them that often, but I like them a lot, especially with really quick robo base. So the Phoenixes are going to buy a lot of time, because Terran's going to be forced to be defensive here for quite a while, right? And then you can build yourself up, of course, that Colossus ball. So already, look at this. Little bit of damage right here being done by our Protoss player. He decides to start up an Immortal for now. That's going to be fantastic against, for example, siege tanks, but also Marauders. And since obviously Terran is now going to be forced to make a lot of Marines, which they will do pretty much all the time anyway. Yeah, this is a nice transition to go for, right? Going into the Colossus. Colossi, they deal bonus damage against light, by the way, in case you're unfamiliar. And obviously those Marines are going to be light units. Alright, so what is Cure going for? Well, Cure decided to go for a Raven over here. This is Cure, by the way, playing a very defensive style. So after that game number 1, I think it's pretty clear that HellraiseR is looking to play this series fast and furious, right? I think that's at the very least what Cure is going to make the assumption in right now. Or he's probably going to make that assumption, rather. Because I think, I mean, don't get me wrong. In this particular matchup, Cure versus HellraiseR, I think 99% of the people will expect Cure to be able to win the game. And I think Cure is probably thinking the same thing as well, just because he's the overall more accomplished and the better player. Right? So if he can grab this game, or if he can get this game to go the distance, he will probably be favored. HellraiseR, though, I mean, not a slouch whatsoever. I don't know what his peak MMR is, but it's probably like 6'7", 6'8" or so on the European server. It's ridiculously high, and you can't underestimate the way that he's playing, right? So, okay, he's still making Phoenixes, already up to 7. He's gonna go up to 8 here. Colossus is coming up. Thermal Lens is coming up. And I just want to say that he still did not get the Warp Gate research. So Warp Gate, I mean, we're 6 minutes into this game, has still not been researched, so this is a regular gateway. It's a bit strange. Here's the Fleet Beacon coming up. Third Nexus is coming up as well. The Fleet Beacon, of course, will enable the Protoss to go into Tempest again, but also carriers if he wants to. And actually, looks like the Raven has made its way across the map. It's snuck around. It's killing a couple of workers here. It's denying some mining time, but obviously Terran can't recall this unit back home. So look at the Phoenixes. These are Phoenixes on a mission. They know that the Tempest, the Raven is out here somewhere. So they're going to be able to start picking off that unit relatively easily. And is this worth 200 gas? 3 worker kills, maybe a couple of minerals in lost mining time? I don't think so. I think the Observer over here got sniped. Third command center will finally be coming up. Now you can see that that Cure, though, has been macroing really nicely, right? Despite the fact that he's lost quite a bit up to this point, 9 SCVs going down here in total, he's got himself a very nice army. The problem is, yeah, do you want to move out? So the issue is, well, apparently our Protoss player is now at home. I actually kind of would like to see this Protoss sitting on the other side of the map with these Phoenixes. But the issue is, if you decide to move out, you can always, like, he doesn't know where those Phoenixes are, right? You can always be at least a little bit concerned. Okay, well, this is one way to defend the command center, I guess. But you can always be at least a little bit concerned that your opponent is going to be moving in here with the Phoenixes. Well, he scans right now, and he sees triple Colossus. So he's only making tier 3 units right now, and there's no way you're going to be able to push up that ramp, right? There's a shield battery over there, there's 3 Colossus, there's an Immortal as well, there's already a Tempest out, and then there's those, like, I don't know, dozen or so Phoenixes. Are you really going to be able to achieve much right there? Okay, Widowmine drop actually over here as well. I missed that one. Nice response there by HellraiseR. He didn't miss it, which I guess is more important. But yeah, this army is going to do absolutely jack nothing. There you go. Against against that Protoss force. Double Stargate again, right? So we have triple Stargate here now in total. We have the +1 flyer upgrade coming up inside of the Cybernetics core. And this is HellraiseR just making tier 3 units pretty much exclusively. One thing you can actually also get inside of the Fleet Beacon, which I think if you have this amount of, where is the Fleet Beacon? Oh, there it is. If you have this amount of Phoenixes, you do want to get the ranged upgrade for the Phoenixes too. So there's an upgrade in the Fleet Beacon called Anion Pulse Crystals that allows the Phoenixes to get +2 range. And it's nice because those Phoenixes obviously, you know, with more range are going to be quite a bit more powerful. There we go. It's going to be, it's going to turn those little shots, actually, of these dudes as well, like purplish rather than bluish. And that will indicate that they have a little bit more range. So, it seems like the defense right here from Cure is just to try and get his opponent to fly into Widow Mines. Which I don't think I like too much. It's a bit of a gamble. It can work out, obviously, and it makes it difficult for HellraiseR right now to commit his Phoenixes towards the other side of the map. But it's certainly something that, yeah, it requires you to get a little bit lucky, and I don't think it's really the best way to defend this. Now look at this. We have triple Stargate Phoenix being produced at the 9.5 minute mark. Fourth Nexus is coming up, and you can see Cure, he's maneuvering this region of the map, and he does not really know what he's supposed to be doing here. Right? He stimps forward here for a little bit, sees the Colossi are still hanging out here. He sees that there's about 1 million Phoenixes. I mean, there's more Phoenixes here than Marines, pretty much, right? What are you going to achieve with this type of army? The Colossi are going to just absolutely zap away against all of those ground units. They're going to fall in a matter of seconds, and since, obviously, you know, the Phoenixes will be able to clean up whatever the Terran player decides to commit with, this army is never going to be able to go home if he decides to fight. So once again, even though Cure is posturing, he decides to go back home. He's got a lot of defensive units, though. Carriers, by the way, right now as a follow-up together with an Immortal here. So we have triple Stargate Carrier at the 10.5-minute mark here from our Protoss. Just securing the fourth base, primarily for the gases, apparently, just to try and get that unit composition even stronger. And look at this as well. He's now going to go into Disruptor production, which is just, yeah, rubbing salt in the wound. This is HellraiseR going for the ultimate Protoss army. And I'm trying to think exactly about what Cure should be doing differently here. I think he's playing a little bit too defensively, right? So you can see that he's got himself a very healthy amount of supply. He's 177 supply, and that's a little bit more right now than his opponent, so that's good. That's something. 4 SCVs end up going down here. Ooh, the Widow Mines. Okay, nice dodge there by HellraiseR. Good response time. Playing very fast, it seems. As long as the Phoenixes don't, like, die randomly, Cure is going to be in a little bit of trouble. Look at the army that he's got, right? So I like what he's doing here. He is getting himself that ranged upgrade, the advanced ballistics for the Liberators. The problem is that this is not really a ground-based Protoss army anymore. He's very quickly now going to, yeah, transition from those Colossi, which apparently were just a means to an end to start building up that Skytos army. He's going to start transitioning from those Colossi into even more flying units. And Liberators are great at anti-ground, but they're not particularly good at anti-air. Now, what is good at anti-air, though, are going to be these Ghosts, obviously, with EMPs. You have the Viking count getting very, very high right now, and then obviously also those Marines. Cure has decided that this may very well be the moment to go at least for a move out, but he sees once again that there's a lot of static defense, right? He sees that the Colossi are hanging out in this section of the map too. Couple of stray pylons here set up just to make sure that you can spot this Terran army from going around. Not bad whatsoever. We just have double freaking Cybercore researching upgrades here for those flying units. And can Cure engage this? I'm not so sure. Here comes the Disruptor Ball. It's not going to be able to connect here, but it's at the very least going to buy enough time for the entirety of this slow Protoss army to get towards the high ground. And once again, it looks like Cure is gonna head on home. He needs to start moving somewhere though, because the 5th Nexus is coming up and HellraiseR is playing as defensively as you possibly can. One Liberator inside of the natural expansion. It's gonna get killed right away. I mean, 5 worker kills here in total, 6 worker kills actually, because... Wait, what? Was there another probe going down there somewhere? Did he end up killing some of his own workers? Is that what happened? I'm not entirely sure. Anyways. Yeah, at this point, HellraiseR is getting to the... Yeah, he's killing his own units right now. He's just trying to open up more supply to even replace more of this army with flying units. He's just playing as turtly as possible. And Cure has been playing very defensively for the majority of this game. He hasn't been able to match this army just yet. And now we're getting to the point where this Protoss army... Look at this, he's even killing his own Tempest. We're now getting to the point where this Protoss army is close to unstoppable. What's going to be the follow-up, though, from our Terran player? Okay. I see a nuke right now on the production tab. Not bad whatsoever. So the map layout is what is really enabling HellraiseR to go for this type of push, right? If this would have been on Jagannatha, for example, yeah, it would have been very different. Like, that is... Oh, what? Are we all killing our own units now? Is that what's going on? Are we killing our own siege tanks here? Like, look at these guys. They're killing their own units. Marauders apparently also not necessary. Yeah, we're just killing our own stuff right here to try and make up for the supply and the units that the opponent is going for. So anti-ground no longer needed. Maybe that's also the reason why I decided to siege up the Liberator there on top of that photon cannon. It looked a little bit sloppy, but maybe he was just trying to open up more supply. We have both players in a situation that is pretty uncomfortable, I would say. We do have 2 Ghost Academies, okay. So that's nice. 2 Ghost Academies at the very least, yeah, are gonna enable him to start producing multiple nukes. Always good. Fusion Core, by the way, obviously done here too, so Cure could always go for that transition towards battle cruisers if he really wants to. And look at this. Both, like, what is this game, right? We're 15 minutes into it. Neither player is really committed to a fight, and both of them are killing their own units because they want to, like, change them up for other units. It is very unheard of and very strange. And I think that Cure is probably looking at this game as well. He's like, wait a second, what is even going on right now? I don't think this is really what I want. He is happily expanding towards the bottom left-hand corner right now. I love the contrast, by the way, right? Okay, here's a tactical nuke. Second tactical nuke coming up as well. One of them over here at this 5th base of the Protoss player, and then one over at the 3rd as well. Is HellraiseR going to be able to spot this in time? That is one, and that is number 2. 10 workers end up going down. Liberator over here shooting at a couple of probes in the natural as well. And this is actually quite nice. I mean, now all of a sudden we see 15 probes going down. The problem is that I don't think HellraiseR is planning on building more probes from here. By the way, we're now 15 minutes into this game, and I just want to emphasize, look at this gateway, right? Are you seeing what I'm seeing? It's not a warp gate. This is a 16-minute long game of Protoss versus Terran, where the Protoss player did not actually research warp gate. I have not seen that before in a macro game, I don't think ever. This guy is just going tier 3 units. That's basically what he's got. And he's using the map layout and then the Phoenixes to get there. Now, I like this little move. Okay. Oracle also flies to its death, but look at this carrier count. There's now 16 carriers available. 16 carriers carrying 8 interceptors each. Since there's double cybercore, he's been upgrading those bad boys for quite some time as well. Massive EMP does land on all of those carriers, so at the very least that means that these will be without shields. But the question is there even enough anti-air here available for Cure to clean all of this up? He's got most of his army on the other side. Look at this, we see a tactical nuke going down inside of the main base of the Terran player just to try and force this Protoss player to back off. A Protoss player who's 17 minutes into this game and who hasn't researched Warp Gate yet. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? These Vikings have absolutely no firepower here against these carriers. Now, the Marines have come home, but they've used Stimpack to try and run a little bit faster. Interceptor ships are just murdering through all of these Terra units. And even though we've had 11 years of professional StarCraft 2, this is not the type of macro game that I don't think I've ever seen. Look at this. We see a tactical nuke going on inside of the main base once again. This time around, though, the ghost will be killed. And I think that Cure is sitting right now with his hands in his hair, wondering what in the world even went wrong. He's got himself a million bases, right? He's mining whatever he likes, but it seems like he can't really find an army that can actually deal with this. Right now, we have the carrier sitting on top of all of the production here. There are so many interceptor ships, like there's at least 100 of them still available. There are so many interceptor ships that all of those units will just be sniped as they pop out of the production facilities. Huh? What just happened? Phoenixes going into Colossus, into straight tier 3, and HellraiseR, after playing a very cheesy game number 1, obtains the victory in a very long macro game as well. Okay, so next map is going to be Jagannatha. Now, this is a best-of-5 series, so it's the first player to win 3 maps that wins this and moves on to the grand finals, right? So just to clarify, at this point, HellraiseR's 2-0 against Goblin, 2-0 against MaxPax, 2-0 against Frisk, 3-0 against Skillis, and then 3-0 versus MaxPax, and now 2-0 ahead over one of the strongest Terran players in the world. It's a ridiculous situation to be in, and definitely not something that I can see HellraiseR doing regularly. I mean, maybe this man has all of a sudden figured it all out, right? And he has, he has realized exactly how he is supposed to be playing StarCraft. And I gotta say, I'm a big fan. I know there's gonna be a couple Terran players looking at this and they're like, oh my god, Lowko, this is disgusting. All he's doing is making the strongest units. You can't blame the guy for that, right? He's playing the strategies that are very good at obtaining victories. And while I understand that it may be frustrating to play against, you know, these guys are not playing for our entertainment. They're playing to win, right? And they're doing what is needed to win. I think that this is something that is oftentimes lost on StarCraft players, myself included as well from time to time. Whenever, like, we talk about playing honorable macro games and all that, right? These guys don't give a crap about playing honorably. All they want to do is win the game, right? That's their only plan and their only goal and the only thing they want. Sure, playing for the fans is something that is a nice bonus and that, you know, you would like to have as an addition to your units. You know, or sorry, to your wins, but it's definitely not the primary objective. Losing while, you know, playing honorably is not really what you want to go for. I mean, maybe you do, but personally, I just like to win. Anyways, I love the stark contrast though, right? So, full-on cheese, game number 1, and then full-on macro, without ever researching Warp Gate, by the way. I just want to once again emphasize that we did not see the Warp Gate research at all. That's nuts. That's something we normally don't see. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Ooh, okay, so very quick tech lab right there for Cure. He's gonna go for the command center on the low ground, and once more, we have a proxy pylon going up right here for HellraiseR. Reaper is going to be able to go across the map, and it will spot, well, I guess already the SCV has spotted it, but it will spot that there is that nexus on the low ground, and that's going to indicate at the very least a bit more of a macro-focused style here from our Protoss player. Now, Protoss is indeed going for a proxy Stargate once again, and it seems to be a concussive shell Marauder-based opener right here from Cure. Now, last time I checked, Marauders can't shoot up. I mean, they can lie on their backs and maybe shoot, like, I don't know, those grenades out of their arms into the air, but yeah, they're not going to be able to do very much against flying units. So this is once again a bit of a weird situation. Cure is going to go for what seems to be a Marauder-based push. He's going to go for a secondary barracks as well, which is huge. Needs to get a reactor on that thing as soon as possible. There we go. Okay, if he wants to have a chance at dealing with air units, because at this point, he's got 0 units that can actually fire up. All he has is 2 Marauders that are apparently going to be marching towards the other side of the map. Couple Adepts right now, or 3 Adepts actually in total, are going to be moving towards what seems to be the other side of the Terran player as well. And look at this. They're passing each other in the night. 2 Marauder boys going up against 3 Adepts that are on the other side. We have shield batteries once again coming up right here in this little choke point. And obviously, this Void Ray is going to be able to start zapping down whatever is over here. Stimpec is being researched here for Cure. That's not going to finish here anytime soon, though. But he is pumping out the Marines 2 at a time. Reactor builds right here on the factory. At the same time, Marauders have made their way towards the other side, and they're going to be able to start picking up those workers very, very easily. Apparently, the Reaper right now is joined in inside of the main base too. Already, though, a tech lab has fallen. It looks like a depot has fallen, and also a second supply depot. I mean, it's going to burn down here eventually. Is there going to be enough anti-air right now for HellraiseR, or sorry, for Cure to be able to defend this? He is dealing a tremendous amount of damage, by the way, on the other side of the map. Those concussive shelled Marauders are getting a lot of work done, but the question is, does he have enough here to defend against these Protoss units as well at home? Cyclone is on the production tab, so that's nice. Good surround right there, actually, with those SCVs on top of those Adepts. I think if those Adepts were killing the Marines here, there probably would not have been enough anti-air to push this back for now. Weakened Void Ray, though, still available. At the same time, they're still microing the other battle on the other side too. There's 16 probes that have already been picked off. Cyclone's gonna... Okay, Cyclone is gonna pop. Sadly here, no lock-on for Cure right as it rolls out of the factory. Shield Battery, though, is gonna bring that one weakened Void Ray back up to full health very quickly. Okay, looks like the Marauders eventually ended up getting surrounded there, but they ended up killing 21 probes. One of the Void Rays running dangerously low. Now the Shield Battery, though, is without energy, and obviously HellraiseR doesn't have a whole lot of money anymore. At this point, he's playing against a Terran player that can build a couple of mules here very quickly as well to ramp up that eco even more so. No economy, though, here for Protoss to transition to our Tempest here. Even if he was dreaming of it, I don't think he can really afford such a thing. So I wonder what his follow-up is going to be. I think he might just be aiming just to get more Void Rays. And I don't really mind it. It's just a bit of a gamble, right? It's just a bit of a weird situation to be in. Anyways, once again, Terran units are moving forward. The lock-on improvement here is gonna be finishing up as well very soon. But yeah, with that Void Ray getting killed, despite the fact that Cure decided to open up Marauders, he does obtain the victory. Alrighty, so that brings us to good old Oxide LE. So far, very action-packed series. Variety of build orders here as well, right? I actually didn't think that a Marauder-based opener would be a decent build against someone going proxy Stargate, but I guess it makes some sense, especially since the Adepts went across the map, right? I'm trying to think what would have happened if those 3 Adepts would have come across the 2 Marauders with concussive shells. I think that's a good situation for the Terran player to be in, but at the very least, he wouldn't have lost a whole lot of those workers at home. Anyways. Also, actually, there was that one moment where the SCVs all ended up surrounding the Adepts, right? And that was obviously because the Marauders were going to town as well. But if the SCVs would not have surrounded those Adepts and the Adepts would have been gunning down the Marines together with those Void Rays, I wonder if maybe there would have been enough anti-air to then, like, pick up whatever would come out of the factory and the barracks next. And then maybe it could have actually been a 3-0 for HellraiseR here. Anyways, doesn't matter. It didn't happen that way. So we find ourselves at Oxide, which is going to be game number 4 in this Best of 5 series. Alright. Well, this is a pretty good location for a proxy pylon. Yeah, it's not bad at all. Cybercore once again coming up. Once more, we have the double gas. Terran is sending out an SCV, which I like a lot. I think that Cure has figured out the kind of opponent he's going up against today. So he will start up the command center here on the low ground, which well, I'm assuming so anyway. There we go. He does have 4 minerals. He's saving up. I think this is the smart move, even against like proxy Stargate shenanigans, which seems to be what the Protoss player here has got in store for us once more. I mean, judging by the gas count and the timing there of the gases, he does have enough right now to start that one up right away to get away in depth as well. Starting up the second barracks, or sorry, the second command center makes a lot of sense. If we're once again going to see a similar approach as we did in game number 1, then the mule drops are going to be super critical, right? So since a lot of SCVs will be forced to repair, look at this, HellraiseR already planting down another pylon over here as well. I think once more to start up a couple of shieldy boys around the perimeter here. But having that additional mule mining is going to be, I think, critical. Anyways, Cure has figured out right now that there is no natural expansion here for his Protoss opponent at the conventional time. So look at this. He's looking around. He's spotted right now that there is a pylon over here. And he's going to check up on this little high ground, I think, very shortly too. Although, not yet. Anyways, doesn't really matter. Barely out of range. Okay. HellraiseR knows exactly where he can plant down those shield batteries to make sure that it's out of range of the Marines on the high ground. Bunker has come up. We see a tech lab here coming up as well. It's absolutely critical, by the way, when it comes to this kind of defense, that you do not lose any units here for free for Cure, especially the Vikings and especially the Cyclones as well. You want to keep those all alive. I think in game number 1, we saw, I think, 2 Cyclones going down pretty much for free. So there's the first Void Ray, by the way. Second one will be coming up. Curious to see if it's going to be a Tempest approach here as a follow-up as well. But anyways, losing those big, important tech units is basically game over. Like, you cannot lose those units. Anyways, Orbital Command lifted. The one from the natural expansion will be available very shortly here inside of the main base. It's still going to accumulate energy, so that's the most important part. There's once again the lock-on improvement there for the Cyclones coming up. Adepts are running dangerously low, but it looks like one of them will stay alive for now. Here's the Cyclone, though. Okay, he decides to lock on right there on whatever he can find, lowering some of the energy right here on the shield batteries on the low ground. Anyways, energy doesn't really matter as long as you just keep producing more and more of those shield batteries. Look at this. It's so nasty, man. These kind of build orders are so dirty. There have been talks about this is something that a lot of players have been suggesting. There have been talks about making it so that shield batteries don't spawn with as much energy as they do. So you see, right, this guy basically spawns with full energy as it finishes. If they would spawn with half energy instead, so say they would spawn with 50 energy when they first finish up, that might make these kind of builds a little less prominent. Because this is what a lot of Terran players are forced to deal with in half of their latter games, at the very least. Anyways, different transition this time around. It's going to be a Nexus on the low ground as well as a Twilight Council. And I actually don't mind that because pretty sure that HellraiseR is looking at this. Why is he not killing the SCVs? Really? Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's looking at this, and so far he hasn't really done a whole lot of damage. He's just gonna, yeah, hang out here for a little while longer. I think if you transition right now towards Tempest, it may just be a little bit too all-in-y, especially now with the Mag Field Accelerator improvement done. You can see the little red lights right there turning on inside of the Cyclone. It basically makes their lock-on ability a little bit more potent. Phoenixes actually has a follow-up too. I kind of like Phoenixes because you can lift up those Cyclones here. Medevac comes up though, so okay. Rather than going double Vikings here, I actually kind of like the idea of going for the Medivac here. Rather than going for Vikings, it seems like the Cyclones are doing a good enough job already. If you can bring those Marines towards the other side of the map, that might be superior. Now look at the follow-up here from our Protoss player. He has decided to go for a Dark Shrine. He did research warp gates this time around, so he's going to be able to start warping in Dark Templar here very soon. Yep, there we go. I love this. So one medevac filled up with Marines. Try and send that one to the other side of the map while the Cyclones and the Marines over here are just trying to get whatever damage done. Looks like maybe eventually this, yep, barracks will end up going down. Okay, that lift up was kind of pathetic. Didn't get a whole lot of work done. Okay, he gets the lock on, gets another lock on as well. And, okay, that's a lot of damage right now being dealt here. HellraiseR shield batteries on the low ground are looking kind of empty here. And all of a sudden, this is, yeah, starting to look a lot more desperate. There is that gateway over here, apparently, that's being proxied. Marines are going to be able to get towards the other side of the map. They'll scout the Dark Shrine here very soon. At this point, there's no there's no detection radar available for Cure other than scans. So he's got to be very careful. He will apparently now find out about this gateway here that's building on the low ground. So that's important because it's going to prevent quick warp-ins. At the same time, the Marines over here are going to, at the very least, force a couple of those units to come back home. It looks like the units here for the Protoss player were recalled. Is he going to lose? Okay, he's going to lose a Void Ray. That's a little bit sloppy. Probably not what you want. Either way, most of the Terran units right now have been dealt with. There is still obviously the potential here. Okay, he already did that. Yeah, he does still have the potential to warp in Dark Templar from the pylon that's powering the Stargate. So Dark Templar are going to be available. Scan just now has actually been used inside of the natural expansion of the Protoss. So there's actually not that much detection here available at home. Cure is going to be forced to start, yeah, saving up energy right now on the orbital command. At the same time, though, while this is all happening, we see a Dark Templar being warped in as well at home. So that could always force a scan, but indeed, there is going to be enough for Cure to defend this. And that means that we're going to the rubber match. Alrighty. And apparently that one takes place right here on Blackburn. One of the craziest maps in the current map pool. Now, shout out, by the way, to Creighton for giving me the opportunity to cast this final day of this tournament. He does a lot of tournament organizations, by the way, or he organizes a lot of tournaments, rather. There you go. I'll go ahead and post a link to his Twitch live stream down below in the description of this video. Go ahead and check him out. He's basically live every single day with a variety of events, and a lot of them he puts on himself, which is a very stressful job, okay? Now, there's obviously a lot of StarCraft professionals that have been doing these tournaments for a very long time. Like, for example, Cure. I'm pretty sure Cure plays in like half a dozen of these events every single day. However, there's obviously also a lot of players that are still pretty young and maybe not as experienced and not as professional. And I've heard some horror stories of players not showing up in time. You organize this awesome tournament and you make the rulebook and stuff, and then you have someone making it deep into the event and then they just don't appear, right? They're just not there. And you're sitting there with your live stream ready to start off the first series of the day, and the pro gamer's nowhere to be seen, right? It's a little bit dicey, and obviously there can be a lot of drama that comes up very well because of it. Anyways, let's see what ends up going down here. Once again, we have a probe, a second one that is making its way towards what seems to be the other side of the map. Now, Blackburn, of course, bit of a crazy map. We do have this speed up, or this slowdown circle, rather. That actually is, it's pretty cool. I might cast another game from this event as well, where this slowing circle came up. If you guys are interested in that, I have never quite seen a push like that, so I may very well cast a game like it in the very near future. So if you're interested in that, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. Whenever I look at the analytics, by the way, only like half of you that watch my videos are subscribed. I mean, if you enjoy the content, feel free to subscribe. Completely optional, but you can always unsubscribe later on if you don't like it. It just gives you notifications of whenever I do upload content. And obviously, yeah, you being aware of that content might help me out as well. Anyways, completely optional, but the option certainly is there. There's a subscribe button down below. It's completely free. Stargate, though, once again being proxied, right? Have we seen a Stargate now every single game from HellraiseR? Yeah, I think we have. I think there's a Stargate every single game so far. Cure, once again, by the way, scouted over here, saw the lack of expo, saw the double gas inside of the main base, so he knows that something might be happening. Well, actually, apparently, he already spotted with maybe that Reaper? Yeah, he already spotted that the Stargate is building right there on the high ground. The two probes, though, okay, that were actually in charge of building the structures over here, have already been picked up. So that's nice. The slow circle over here apparently is going to bring safety there to the SCV. I like it. Another probe was pulled from the mineral line, and I think that this one will be charged with building shield batteries over here. Two bunkers. One bunker in the main, one in the natural. Void Ray is going to finish up and get over here very quickly. Hey, stop looking at that dude. Hello. Mr. SCV, that's disgusting. Don't look at the Ultralisk. Anyways, Void Ray is going to be coming up. Adept is going to be coming up as well. There's already one Stalker patrolling back and forth as well at home, in case that Reaper decides to get adventurous. Reaper can always leave as well through the back of the main base, so that is something worth noting. Anyways, here's the battery, or sorry, not the battle ray overcharge, the Void Ray overcharge, utilized right there on the bunker, and with that, the expansion is going to be forced to lift up. Cyclone coming up. Starport coming up. Another bunker coming up as well. I believe he did get the salvage right there on the bunker. Yeah, so only 25 minerals lost here so far for a Terran player. The Reaper, by the way, did go across. So I like this move. This is definitely something that you can punish weaker players with, right? So luckily here for HellraiseR, he seems to be very experienced playing these kind of nasty strategies. So he kept that adept at home. But obviously, if nothing would have been here to defend against this kind of shenanigans, this... yeah, could be a problem. Anyways, Cyclone trying to pop in here. One of the depots here goes down, and actually the Cyclone gets picked off as well. That is a big loss. Losing the Cyclone there is not what you want at all. It's what we saw in game number 1, and it could certainly bite you in the butt going forward. It's so critical to keep those units alive. Forge comes up. Fleet Beacon is already done, so once more we can see that Tempest transition. The Forge obviously will also now enable start the building right here when it finishes at the very least of photon cannons. So photon cannons obviously is yeah, it's gonna keep this Protoss shenanigans on the low ground alive for a little while longer. There's the upgrade once again that will deal additional damage here to structures. One SCV apparently is gonna see if it can help out as well. It's got a drill at the end of its arm, so maybe it can start dealing a little bit of damage there to that pylon eventually, but Void Rays just back off whenever they are out of shields, and they'll be able to stay alive for a little while longer. Alright, Macfield Accelerator will finish up, but this time, you know, we've only got one Cyclone here. 2 Cyclones were killed? Oh my god, that's a disaster. Yeah, he ended up losing 2 Cyclones apparently here. So, Macfield Accelerator with 3 Cyclones is so much scarier than with 1. Cure is desperately trying to break out of this before it gets underway, right? He's trying to kill it before it lays eggs. But it's already laid eggs, my man. And now all of a sudden you find yourself in a pretty desperate scenario. Vikings are coming out. Okay. One thing you can do here if you're a Protoss player to rub salt in the wound of the Terran is build a Nexus instead of their natural. So remember in game number 1, HellraiseR decided to build a Nexus instead of his opponent's third base. I actually prefer seeing it over here. Not just because, you know, it's your opponent's natural expansion, so it kind of hurts them, right? Which feels good. But also, secondly, and more importantly, if you build a Nexus over here, you can battery overcharge the shield batteries. Huh? I know some of you did not consider that yet. I probably just blew your mind. You can freaking battery overcharge the shield battery that's supposed to be a defensive unit inside of your opponent's natural instead. And that's obviously going to keep all of these units alive for a significantly longer time. You don't even need energy on those bad boys anymore. With a mine at the front. It will be picked up. Obviously, those photon cannons are detectors. So, yeah. It's not going to be able to do too much. And now, all of a sudden, once more, we are at 3 of those Tempest here in total. One important difference, though, is that there is a second, what's it called? A second orbital command this time around, right? And the second orbital is super important. Okay. One of the structures there ends up going down for the Protoss player. Decides to rebuild the photon cannon right away. Bunker still available here, too. Repairing up whatever, or it's being repaired up right here. And there we go. The Nexus goes down. I love it. I think the Nexus here is really clever. Anyways, Cure does still have a lot of units, though. His army supply count is a little bit higher than of his opponent. And so far, he seems to be keeping most of this alive as well. Sure, he's lost a bunch of units along the way. SCVs, though, kind of negligible. So all things considered, he hasn't lost too much. He's going to be forced to lift up and get even more towards the corner here. So what he's trying to do, he's trying to build a critical mass of units so the batteries cannot heal those Protoss units in time. What he's looking to do here is just to try and lock on to one of those units at a time and just pick them off, right? The problem is that he is on a timer himself as well because he can't keep producing units here and lose a lot of economy in the process. Well, there we go. Okay, that's one of the Tempests getting picked off. Void Ray's running dangerously close as well. The Nexus is not done yet, so no battery overcharge here. And I think that Cure is engaging this before that Nexus finishes. This is on purpose. And there we go. He's starting to pick off the Tempest one at a time. Looks like the final Tempest over here is now locked onto as well. Vikings deal damage. And just like that, even though it was starting to look desperate, Cure comes back from being 2-0 behind, and he wins this series 3-2, but he had to fight for it. I hope that you enjoyed watching today's YouTube video. If you did, please take the 1 second that it takes to hit that like button down below. And I also want to give a special shout out today to the Patreon supporters. Thank you very much for supporting the channel directly. If you're interested in a couple of the cool perks that I try and give out on Patreon, there's a link to that down below in the description of the video. Anyways, for now, thanks for watching. Have an awesome day. Don't forget to smile, and I'll see you once again in the next one.